are going to hear that. Should we?
I'll ask him to play
Oh, thanks a lot. That's great.
Put a rubber tip on that handle. So
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll appreciate it.
It's tough.
It is.
I'm going to talk to Jack. Maybe we can.
Go someplace where it's quiet, another cool rooms. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Also. Hello, today is June 20th, 2001. My name is Dr. Tom Banner from Kane University. We're aboard the USS Battleship New Jersey, stationed in Camden, New Jersey. I'm working with Mr. Paul Lobauer of Pro Media, Digital Media Productions of Mount Laurel, New Jersey. And we're just talking with Mr. Joseph Hopkins of Mount Holly, New Jersey, who served in the Navy from January 1943 through September 1962 and reached the rank of E7 Chief Yeoman. He served aboard the Battleship New Jersey from May 23, 1943 to March 3, 1945 as part of the Gunnery Department, 5th Division, and as part of the Personnel Section Chaplain's Office. He also served aboard the USS Rochester, CA-146, the USS St. Paul, CA-93, the USS Helena, CA-75, and as I said, he retired from the Navy in October 1962, and he had a fair amount of combat experience during the Marianas Turkey Shoot and the liberation of the Philippines on June 19, 1944. Joe, thank you very much for talking with us today.
You're welcome.
Just want to start off the conversation. How did you get to be involved with the Battleship New Jersey?
Well, when the World War II broke out, I was at the age of 17 years old, and I was a senior in high school, and I decided that I should go and help defend for the war.
By the way, where were you living at the time?
Oh, at that time, I was born and raised in Akron, Ohio.
Akron, Ohio.
Yeah. So I asked my father if he would sign for me, and he said no. And I says, well, then I will go in the Merchant Marines, and you don't have to sign for me. Anyway, my father ended up signing for me, and I enlisted in the Navy, was sent to Great Lakes, Illinois for boot camp. And boot camp was very strenuous. We sat around singing songs because it was winter time, and our instructor was from Florida, and he didn't like the winter. And so we stayed there to get our shots, and next thing I knew, I was on a train, and with several hundred other fellows, and we found out we were headed for Philadelphia, Pennsylvania Navy Yard. And we got here, and we were assigned to the Battleship New Jersey, which it was commissioned May 23, 1943, and we came aboard, and I was amazed of what am I doing here? This is where I got to sleep, and living with all these men and young men and everything. And that started out with the Jersey, and after our shakedown cruise, then we went through the Panama Canal into the Pacific and started entering into the war zones. And living with 2,400 other people is quite an experience, and it's been very benefit to my life.
In what way?
Knowing how to live with people, and knowing other people's problems. You think you have problems or situations, but until you talk to someone else and understand them, and then you know how to. And I think it helped me raise my children, and especially now my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren, because I always refer to them, well, your grandpa or your dad, he had it pretty rough when we were your age, so it was very beneficial to me.
By the way, where's your bunker? You're in the 5th Division. Where is that located?
It's right down on the main deck, and I was there a little bit ago, and seeing where I was, and there. And in fact, my son from North Carolina came up yesterday just to do some work on here, and he was very fortunate that he got to put wax on the new linoleum and polish it. So
give him a little Navy training.
Right, give him a little bit of Navy training.
Tell us a little bit about your work aboard the ship.
Yeah. Well, aboard the ship, I was originally in the gunnery department. That was called on the deck force, and swabbing the decks, and I was supposed to be learning how to be a gunner's mate. But I seen these fellows sitting in an office on typewriters, and I says, that looks kind of interesting to me. I found out how to get a job in that, and I became what they call now, I became a yeoman. We had two chaplains aboard. We had a Catholic chaplain and a Protestant chaplain, and I was assigned to their office to do their paperwork, and also I did do some personnel work too, but mostly I took care of the chaplain's paperwork and that.
Did you have any interesting, unique experiences while working for the chaplains who do a lot of counseling and helping with the men?
Yes, they would come in and want to talk to the chaplain. Sometimes I would ask them why or what their problems was, and that's something that really helped me in my retirement life, a position that I had after I retired from the Navy. And I set up for the church services and generally did all the paperwork for them.
You mentioned that you were aboard the ship during the Marianas turkey shoot.
Yes, it's very interesting.
Tell us about that experience.
Well, it's very interesting. As I'm sitting here yesterday, I was witnessing that turkey shoot that was 57 years ago. Yesterday, June the 19th, 1944, was the Philippine liberation, when we were liberating the Philippines, and we came a turkey shoot. My battle station, which was called Air Defense, it's way up in, it's like a little tub sitting way up above the superstructures here. And I was a young fellow there. It was a real first experience really of being in the war, seeing shooting going on. And there were over 400 planes, and most of them, I would say probably the majority of those planes, almost the 400, hopefully, were shot down, and they were the Japanese planes. There were other ships firing. Our planes were firing at their planes, and we were firing, and I thought, this is unbelievable what I'm seeing. I probably didn't even realize that, hey, some of those bullets would come right up here and take care of all of us sitting up in this little tub up here.
So in effect, you're at the top of the ship.
Right up the top of the
ship.
ship.
Watching this battle taking place
Right.
around you.
Right.
Describe that battle.
Yeah. Well, mostly what the battle was, it was all, say, the 20 millimeter guns were firing at them, and mostly in airplanes. Our airplane from our aircraft carriers were fighting the Japanese planes that come off to their planes. And there was two of our submarines did sink a Japanese carrier. I forget the name of it, but during that war. I did quite see that. That was out in the distance some way. But it was mostly just the aircraft flying above us, and some of them, there were a few kamikazes were trying to dive down, but we were very fortunate none of us hit us.
And the 20 millimeter cannon, I think, had a range of approximately 2,000 yards. Is that correct?
Well,
It's a close-in weapon.
It's a closer
Close-in weapon, yeah, at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your duty during that battle? You're up in this
Well,
crow's nest, so
actually,
to speak.
yeah.
watching
Really
it.
what I was up there for, I was a telephone talker.
Mhm.
I was the gunnery officer's telephone man. Whenever he needed to call down on the bridge to talk to the captain or whoever, and then I would call down and tell them to get whoever he needed to talk to, and then vice versa. They would want to talk to the gunnery officer, then I would get a hold of him, and so I was really a telephone talker for him.
Do you remember any of those bits or pieces of conversation, what they're about?
No, I really don't. That's a long time ago, and probably being as young as I was, I probably really didn't really know, but it could have been. If I'm correctly, I do remember one incident which was, it is kind of humorous, and I hope that I've got this straight. I know at one point there was the bridge called, and they said that the captain wants to see the gunnery officer and his telephone talker on the bridge right after this exercise. And actually, this exercise was during our shakedown cruise, and we were actually practicing shooting the guns and things, I think. So we went down on the bridge, and the captain, Captain Carl F. Holden, and he says, Commander Hahn, who was the gunnery officer, he says, evidently this young man did not give you the right direction for the one target we were shooting at. I believe that you had a 5-inch gun shooting at the 16-inch target. And he laughed and everything, and I guess I did do that. And why the gunnery officer didn't realize that, I don't know, but it turned out to be kind of a joke between all of us.
Any other experiences that you recall from combat situations with the New Jersey?
Well, I was in the Marianas, Kwajalein, Eniwetok, and Guam, Kwajalein, and as I say, we actually we saw a lot. We were there to protect really the aircraft carriers. Of course, in the destroyers, the tin cans in them, they were there to protect. They were way out. They were there to protect the cruisers and, of course, the battleship. The other battleship that was with us there was the Iowa. Of course, we're the Iowa class. And as far as myself or really seeing or what we shot down, we did a lot of shore bombardments, mostly. I really cannot recall where we actually had some combat at that point with a Japanese ship versus our ship.
Could you describe one of the shore bombardments?
Yeah. Well, the only thing I could see is when the 16-inch guns would go off, there's a big roar in that. And it always felt like if you had a broadside with them, it felt like the ship lifted up and moved, but this is not true. This is not true. It felt that way.
So when you're up in this observation point, you would feel the concussion of the guns firing?
Yeah. Well, not really feeling it too strong. It was loud mostly, and that was the 5-inch guns. They were really loud, but and the 16-inch guns were more of a roar or something. Didn't really affect my ears or anything like that.
And describe the role of the 5-inch gun. That had a range, I believe, of 10 miles?
I believe it was 10 miles.
10 miles, and what would they use those for?
Yeah. Well, this would be if for shooting to ships, and we did. I understand we did fire at some ships, but I can't remember. There was a small ship. This is the most decorated ship that there is, and it did see a lot. And it's seen a lot. Don't get me wrong. During the war, it did see a lot, but it was mostly shore bombardments and that. And there were some aircraft carriers, fighting. Airplanes, I should say. But
what was the? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We did. Well, the only other thing it was that I believe it's when we were in the Marianas or something. I have to. They were bought some Japanese. I think it was 3 or 4 Japanese prisoners that were. Floating in the water off of a small ship that was bombarded and sunk. And they brought him back on the fantail and hosed him down and everything. And I can remember, and he was a great fan of mine, was Admiral Halsey. And his 2 aides were walking him back to the fantail. And the Admiral Bull, he was madder than a hen. And I thought at first that he was going to go up and sock one of the Japanese prisoners, but his aides grabbed a hold of him and took him away or anything.
So he showed a great deal of anger towards the Japanese prisoners.
It did. That day, I can remember that real well, though.
Did he talk with them at all, or did he?
No, I think he kind of yelled at him or something. But and he was a distance from me there, I think. But I know that they grabbed a hold of him, and he had his hand up something like this. I don't think he was going to hit him, but he was probably yelling at him.
What was Halsey's reputation aboard the ship? What did the men think of him? What did he recall of him?
Well, as we called him the Bull, he would walk around. Once in a while, he'd come down in the mess hall or something, I think. But I was very, very proud and honored to be with him. I see nothing wrong. There have been some reports at the one battle there that he took the Jersey and the fleet to a different area from where the action was going on, and that was, but he was going after what he thought, would believe, was the Japanese fleet, and that's evidently we got the wrong area to go to. So, but no, I thought quite a lot of it.
How did the men in general feel towards?
Well, as far as I
Hopkins?
know, the fellows that I knew, as I was acquainted with and worked with, I never heard them complain against him or anything. I was very satisfied with him.
Was he considered a tough commander, a fair commander? How would you characterize him?
Well, I would probably say, because we called him the Bull, and that's what his name always was that he was supposed to be pretty rough, but I didn't see where he was, other than that one incident, you know. And of course, I was not in the officers' staterooms or where he was and all the time, so that part I don't. Just from what I personally saw and saw how he was.
Talk to us a little bit about everyday life aboard the ship during wartime.
Yeah.
What happened every day?
Well, you just did your work, your jobs you had, and just like any other job, except that then all of a sudden, if the battle zone would go on, you know, air defense or something, then you had to man your battle stations. And you did a lot of watches on the different guns. You were assigned to some guns too. Guns were always manned, so you had to stand watches on the guns and that. And you normally did your work, and we had movies aboard, and in the mess halls, we'd have movies at night. We ate a lot of key dunk and pokey bait, and we would.
Pokey bait is what?
Pokey bait is candy bars, and key dunk is ice cream. I think I got that right. Sure. And we used to refill some destroyers once in a while. The lines would go over, and we'd send them over some food.
And the destroyers would refill from your tanks?
Yes, from our tanks. Yeah. Uh-huh. And we were in. Of course, we were in a big typhoon that we lost. 3 destroyers were sunk during that. That rocked the ship.
When was that typhoon? Do you recall what year?
I can't remember exactly when that was. I really don't.
I've heard about that typhoon. Yeah.
It was really something. And as I say, if everything was, you couldn't go out on the decks or any place, you know. And we thought that, boy, this is really rocking, but not compared to what what the destroyers or the ships were.
How did the enlisted crew, the crew, react to a combat situation after it's over?
Well,
what happened?
I think we were rather calm about it, or we talk about it a little bit. Yeah. And then again, I really believe that since most of us, I felt most of the part was shore bombardments, and that is you really didn't see really. I don't recall, other than the turkey shoot, of really seeing any really fierce danger. Maybe we were so protected, and our guns were so big. As I said before, I did see occasionally some kamikazes would try to land on us, but we weren't hit at all. I was transferred off of the ship before the war ended, and that's when that captain was relieved or something. And we went back to San Diego for some reason, I forget what, to do something. And then I was transferred off of the ship before the war ended. That was in March of '45. And I ended up on Okinawa, wondering what in the heck am I doing on Okinawa and living in a tent.
As part of the shore party, a naval shore party? Or something?
Well, right. I guess what was happening, I guess they knew they were going to drop the bomb, and they would need to get men off the ships. They were eligible for immediate separation, go back to the States. And so there was no, we set up like a receiving station, but there were no barracks or something. So we had to find ships that were going back to the States to put them on so they could get back to the States and everything. And I just griped and groaned and was very dissatisfied. And finally, it was time to dismantle everything, and we were told we could go back and get discharged. And I said to the commander that was in charge of us, I says, Commander, I've decided to ship over into the regular Navy. And he says, Hopkins, you're going to do what? And I says, I'm going to stay in the Navy. He says, I had a feeling you were, the way you complained and everything, because you must have been happy. So, and I spent my 20 years. I finally retired.
Any comments on how your experiences aboard the New Jersey affected you later on in life, during your career in the Navy,
Yeah.
that was lengthy, and today?
Well, when I retired from the Navy, I was stationed in the Pentagon at that time. And I could have went with the government jobs. I was offered some, stay right there in the Pentagon and everything. But I decided I was, moonlighting with an insurance company. And they offered me a job, and I decided to go into regular civilian life. So I went with this insurance company, and which was very strange because shortly after I was discharged and retired from the Navy, and I thought I was going to be living right down there in Virginia and everything, they decided to move their headquarters to Philadelphia and asked me to go with them. So then I thought, I'll be darned. Here I am in Philadelphia, and I bought a house in New Jersey, and this is where I started out my life as a teenager, and now here I am going to be living here in the state of New Jersey. So I was, with my experience of living together for 2 years, or all my military, naval history, when I have to go to sea, and living on ships with people, and getting along with them and everything. I was assigned in the Human Relations Department for this insurance company. And my responsibility and my position was I was the director of the Human Relations Office, and any complaints of discrimination that any of the workers that were employed by the insurance company had, they would come to see me. And I had the full authority by the CEO that if the company was wrong, we would correct it. If the company was right and they wanted to file a discrimination charge against the company, then I would have to handle that and everything. And at the time that I first took this over here in Philadelphia, they had 20 cases filed against the company, against the Human Relations Commission here in Philadelphia. And I went over to the commission and talked to them, and I got a hold of all of our employees that were filed these, and we settled every one of them without going to court or anything. Some of the complaints, I agreed with the employees and says, yes, you are right, and we'll correct what you say we've done wrong. And some of them were, I says, you're really wrong, and you're going to lose this, and I showed them where they were wrong, and they were satisfied with that. And we had a few cases. We had one that went to court. I won't get into all that and everything, but it turned out very well. And my experience living with other people, and mostly men, but we had women, it taught me a lot how to listen to people and listen to their problems and see who's right and who's wrong. And it was very, very helpful for me.
So your Navy background helped you as a counselor in the future?
Yes, it did, very much, because I ended up, I spent 25 years with that company. So it did. It helped me very much.
Any final comment, words that you want to offer, that things you want to state, you want to make that I haven't asked about that you think is important for us to know about the New Jersey?
Well, I just want to say this. I'm so happy she's here. I'm so proud. And I'm so amazed at the number of volunteer workers that are on here and helping to put her back into shape and do this. And I think it's going to do the city of Camden very, very, bring them up to where they should be, because it's got a name, and the people that have been on it are going to see it and have heard about it, and I think it's going to be a very benefit to the city of Camden too to have her here, and she's home where she belongs. And like I said, I had my son come all the way from North Carolina to spent a few hours working on here, and my grandson, he wasn't quite old enough to come aboard just yet, but he'll be here, I think. And I'm just thrilled to be.
Well, thank you very much.
You're
We've
welcome.
been speaking with Mr. Joseph Hopkins of Mount Holly, New Jersey, who served aboard the Battleship New Jersey from May 23, 1943 through March 3rd, 1945.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Let me help you with your microphone.
Oh, that's right.
Check it out.
Yeah.
Good job.
I'm going to go get a beer.
Oh, you deserve it.
I'm going to go get a beer.
Thank you so much.
I will tell you, fellas.
You would get so many seats.
I didn't want to put this on tape. As a chaplain, you know, I used to get some of the guys, and they have some problems.
Mhm.
They want to talk to me. And I said, well, Tom, you're going to talk to me.
Mhm.
I'm a young fellow, but yeah, well, we're all young.
Mhm.
But I got acquainted with one of Admiral Halsey's stewards. And just Filipino, he would come down and I was like, probably that's good. Well, all of a sudden, I had a great surprise. Now, I moved my mattress in the office. I slept up in the office. I would. Anyway.
You had a good deal going, huh? Your own private cabin.
Well, it was a very good deal because quite often, all of a sudden you had all the packages, the glasses, I don't want to put that on tape.
Oh, you should. That's important
No,
stuff.
I don't
They
want
can't
them to
put
know
you in
the
a break for that.
Don't drink for you.
Oh, they can't put you in a break. We should record those things. Joe, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you. Okay. Good luck to you. Take care now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck. Have a nice cold
Thank you.
beer.
Hope
Thank you.
everything comes out.
Okay.
Oh,
Sure,
yeah.
Ken. We'll set up some of these fans out here.
As a matter of fact, maybe we could see how noisy this is. Maybe we can get this below.
You can set it up somewhere and